Hi, I'm Dan Owen, Director of Customer Success Architecture at MuleSoft. Today we're joined by Edward Lee from icare. He's going to talk to us about how icare have delivered a digital insurance platform for the future. Just a couple of housekeeping items. The recording of this webinar will be distributed to your registered email address within 24 hours. Also, I strongly encourage you to send any questions you may have as we go through this presentation through on the chat widget. Also, we would love you to join the conversation. Here's a tweet handle. Please join in. Now, here's Ed.
Thanks, Dan. Hello everyone. I'm Edward and icare. I'm currently the head of technical practice at icare, looking after a lot of the technology platforms that we have built over the years. And integration is a key part of the platform that I looked after. I'm at icare almost since the beginning. I've been here almost 3 years. It's been really a lot of fun and really hard work. When I first started, I'm the head of architecture, so I kind of have an in-depth background around how the whole architecture is being put together, and just in general my area of expertise are largely in software development and architecture, and then predominantly in the financial service area. So just to quickly introduce, to talk about who we are from an icare perspective. So icare was set up in 2015. We are the operating entity for various insurance care schemes for the New South Wales government in Australia. So at its core, we are actually a social insurer. So our goal is really to protect, insure, and care for the community of New South Wales. We believe as an insurance company, at its core, we're really there to help people when they're needed. Even though insurance companies sell policies most of the time, but our existence is really there when people are sending us a claim, and we are really there to help them when that happens. In terms of vision, we believe we want to change the way people think about insurance and care by providing a world-class service. So if traditionally you think about in the financial world, in the insurance company, people talked about the company is there to sell policies, to earn premiums, and then they're not really there for when the claim happens. We want to really change that, and then I'll touch on a lot around what our company do, what our organization do, and in a way that we are unique in a position to actually do that, because we are a government entity, so our end goal is not really to make money. And then you can also see that in our corporate DNA, which is commercial mind and social heart. So we believe we are there to help, but at the same time, obviously, we want to do well from a government and from an insurance company perspective. We want to be able to, do this sustainably in a financial sustainable way. And so we kind of touch on our corporate goal, but I guess let's give you a bit more around exactly the specific areas that we looked after from an insurance perspective. So our biggest insurance scheme by far and large is the Workers Insurance Scheme. That looks after about 4 million workers in the state of New South Wales. That covers about 300,000 employees. So that's really looking after for people who's injured at work, and we're coming and step in and provide compensation for those guys. The second big part around our scheme was we covers the assets and people in the state of New South Wales. So we insure the government. So things like hospitals, schools, the Opera House, Sydney Opera House, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, they are all under cover by us. We are, the largest public sector self-insurer in Australia. And there's a few other areas that are slightly more niche. So the other insurance scheme that we have is the home builder insurance scheme. So we looked after when homeowners kind of out there building their home and have the contractors come and do renovations. We'll insure the work, and when the contractor is unable to fulfill their contract, we'll step in and help the homeowners finish building their homes. The other area is dust and disease care. So that's a scheme that looks after for people who has contracted dust disease during their work, and we're stepping in and looked after not just them, but also their dependents, their family as well. And lastly, lifetime care, which is really for looking after people who are severely injured in a motor accident in New South Wales. So we'll provide treatments, cares and rehabilitation service to all those guys. All in all, for all the people that we looked after, our strategy is really to start with a person-centric experience. So that's because when people contact us, they're really in a moment of needs. So we really want to make sure we look after them. The second part of our strategy is around making sure we provide optimum outcomes for our different customer groups. As I mentioned before, we have multiple different insurance schemes. So it's really key for us to understand the different needs for different customers, that's looked after by our insurance schemes. For example, for the injured worker, the goal is to really about returning to work. For government agencies, then obviously it's about managing their risk. In terms of the exposure for the buildings and for the motor vehicles, and various other schemes obviously all have kind of the different needs. And lastly, as I mentioned before, look back to our DNA. We want to have a financially sustainable scale. That's again our key profile of our strategy. We want to make sure we can be there and actually provide the level of care and services to those customers in a way that's sustainable. So making sure that we invest in the right thing responsibly, it's really a key part. So at the end of the day, what we really want to do is, when somebody ring icare's up, we don't really want to ask their policy and claim number. Our call is to treat a person like a person. So, we want to start with greeting them with what's your name, want to understand them and really help them. So that's really at the core, that's really our corporate company's vision and our strategy. So great, right? So once we set all the strategy up, now it's time for us to kick off. So this is now 2015, almost 4 years ago. We're starting off, and I want to talk to the core key part of our transformation, which is around workers' insurance. So just to delve into workers' insurance a little bit more. So workers' insurance is really there to provide help when the workers are injured at work and they are unable to work, and the insurance will cover them for their wages, and also for all the medical expenses and all the rehabilitation expenses. In New South Wales, this is a mandatory insurance, so employers have to take our workers' insurance cover for themselves and their workers. But the things wasn't looking so great back in 2015. So back in September 2015, when we first started, a lot of feedback that we get was around for workers' insurance. Really, this is really so people don't like it. A lot of the feedback was it's a really costly, inefficient process. Customer experience is really inconsistent because back then we outsourced majority of our work to 5 different scheme agents, so which are essentially 5 other insurance company that will actually operate the workers' insurance scheme. And as you can imagine, because of that, the customers depends on who you're dealing with one day versus the other, 2 different, I guess we call them scheme agents. You will run into really inconsistent processes, really inconsistent experience. And even though I guess at the end of the day, the people that's working in those on the workers' insurance scheme, the people are really wanting to help, but it's really the wider scheme that's really hindering them, and they can't really do much. So to start with, icare really want to set out and change all that. This is just a typical experience that a lot of feedback that we get. People who's injured, and the first thing we send them out is go and please fill out a 20-page form. I'll ask you from your work histories, what your typical work day is like, what's your salary? How many leaves do you have? We ask a lot of questions, and after that, then we'll start looking at, potentially paying for the injuries that you have, and start a rehabilitation process. So people is not really feeling great. Another key stat it worth noting is, like I said, the goal for workers' insurance is to help people return to work. And the stats tells us that when the people is being off work after 45 days, the chance of them returning to work drop below 50%. So a lot of what we do at icare is really to strive to get people back to work as early as possible. Obviously we didn't set out, on just the 45 days. We'll always be there, regardless where you are. We'll try to help you return to work, but this is kind of like a key benchmark for us. So with all that, understanding the systematic problems, the first thing that we set out is really to kind of design a new service model. So icare, when we first started, we kind of say, we understand, people have actually different needs, depends on the injury they have. Rather than giving them all the same treatment, asking to fill out 20-page form, we know for a majority, like 60% of the people that contact us really just had a minor injury at work, whether, they kind of injure themselves with doing some heavy liftings, have some back injury. A lot of people in those scenarios, they've been to the doctors, they actually back to work. From their perspective, all they want for us is really to pay for their medical expenses. And that's a large cohort for us that, our goal is to really help them do self-service. We also know there's another group of people who has really serious injuries, and those people are, for example, the people that has injury on the construction side, that's usually quite severe. And we know that the chance of those people going back to work is not high. So so for those people, our goal is to really provide really tailored service for those guys. The goal is make sure they are looked after. The goal is not necessary to help them go back to work. Not in those cases. And then there's another kind of middle ground people where they are not there just to looking for medical expenses, but they are not seriously injured. And for those people, that's really the gray area. Then that's where we focus a lot of attention on. That's where we have a really good chance to get them back to work. But if we're not careful, then there's a chance that they might take a very long time to go back to work. And we, from a service model perspective, we kind of do have dedicated people looking after them and making sure we provide them with enough support, not too much, but enough support to help them go back to work. And that's at the high level, that's kind of the goal when we set up from a service model perspective. This is what the business set up for us. And the business obviously has a lot of vision around how we can make it happen. They kind of said to the technology guys, we need to build a platform that can support this, being able to support the people that want self-service, being able to have the flexibility to support the people who want tailored service, the people who are severely injured, and also have the ability to kind of watch those people who are in the gray area, in a way that we can pick up, symptoms, signals that these guys potentially may not, is now in risk not going back to work. Back in 2015, that was the key things that the business set up for the technology team. And our vision as a technologist, when we first started, then we said, okay, to enable this kind of the service model that business asked for us, we want to build a modern cloud-only technology platform. And the key part of that vision is, we want to really focus on the differentiators. We don't really want to focus our energies on the underlying core infrastructure, which is more commodity services for us. At the end of the day, our goal is to differentiate ourselves, to provide the cares, insurance and cares for our customers, we're not there ready to run hardcore technology. We're not there to run data centers. So that was the challenge. So back then, as I mentioned, when I first started as the head of architecture, I kind of go, great, this is the challenge. You then quickly come up with a really high-level view around what are the capabilities that the business needs to support this. So this is a very typical layer cake style architecture where you kind of start at the top saying, oh, this is our customer channel, therefore we kind of need a digital portal to support our digital channels. Then we kind of come in and say, we need a CRM, we need all the things that will support a more contact center. People want to phone us. We need the capability that with the CRM, with the contact center platform to support people coming through a different channel rather than digital. Obviously, at the core of our technology is the core insurance platform that's able to handle policies, insurance policies, and handle insurance claims. And there's a few other platforms at the back to support more back office style processes like payments, finance, and generating documents. And with all that, we kind of go, you can't go without having an integration platform to stitch them all together. So we really need an integration platform that allow us to integrate. And back then we are also looking for a cloud native integration platform. And that's when we kind of came across MuleSoft, kind of matched quite a few of our key criteria, like being cloud only, being able to support agility, velocity, scalability, obviously aligned to our cloud only strategy. But there's a key part that kind of caught our attention, which is the MuleSoft strategy around application network. And back then we kind of had this loose idea around, because we want to be cloud only, we want to consume technology service. It's kind of quite similar to what the MuleSoft guys are aspiring to. So we thought, okay, that's another kind of take. So that's where we kind of end up saying, okay, I think MuleSoft is the right platform for us. Let's put that in as our integration platform to integrate all this different technology together. But then I guess, if I fast forward to now, I guess 3 years later, and kind of show you what our technology architecture looks like, it's actually nothing like what I first drew on that diagram, all those 3 years ago. If I then look at all the different services that we're putting together to construct our overall technology landscape, it's actually very different to what we thought it looked like when we first started. It's actually very similar to the idea that MuleSoft was promoting around the whole application network. So icare's overall technology landscape is actually a combination of all the different technology services that are connected together by MuleSoft to serve our customers. So if I look through, what we have, for example, if we were to, I guess, allow customers to register themselves on our digital portal, then what we'll do is we stitch together an authentication service such as Okta. We, integrate that through our portal, which is on Sitecore, and Salesforce being our CRM. And those three application services integrate together through MuleSoft, kind of form the business process of allowing a customer to register their access to our portal. And then I think subsequently, if we add Guidewire in there, then that allows us, with all those different, those 4 different technology, that allows us to start buying policies, selling policies, and allow them to start making claims. And then further, I guess, as I mentioned before, we talked a lot around, the business want to look for signals to know when a specific injured workers or claimants that's falling into that middle section and looking for signals that they may or may not, go back to work and look at what the possibility are, what can we do to help them. That's where our kind of machine learning, that capability comes in. And that's where, on the right, we have our SaaS platform that's there to kind of provide that capability to look at the data and spit out signals to warn our claim advisor around, okay, this specific participant or injured worker is really at risk. You really want to pay attention to those guys. So, and overall, because, we kind of see ourselves as, from a technology team perspective, we see ourselves really as a key integrator of hooking up all the different services together, we went all in our kind of API first strategy. We really see our overall technology platform is to show, I guess, the different services that we consume and put them behind API to enable, I guess, business capability in that area. We end up building 40 plus different APIs. We have over 300 interfaces that's kind of put together to provide business processes. And this kind of end up being where we want to be from a target technology architecture perspective. But as any technologists now, I guess it was never smooth sailing. If I look at the last 3 years, it's really a long marathon. When we first started in 2015, it's been 3 years in the making for us to put this overall landscape together. And you'll notice, which I'll touch on a lot later, you'll notice that in this kind of roadmap, you'll notice in 2018, we actually roll out service model. And in 2019, we actually then roll out our claim platform. There's a good story there, but how do we kind of enable that to happen before the core platform is there? So, but let's backtrack a little bit. So back in 2017, when we the first thing that the icare business asked the technology team to do is to really start building a policy self-service platform. As I said before, icare wanting to be financially sustainable, we still need to start with, I guess, being able to sell policies, collect premiums for our business to be sustainable before we can then, I guess, improve our claim services. So back in 2017, that's the first piece that we roll out, which is the policy self-service capability. So you'll notice on this overall view, there's a few things that's different to the target architecture. We had a Salesforce portal back then. We have Guidewire, Policy Center, and Billing Center, which is really there to support our policy platform. But you'll notice it's actually in an icare-hosted AWS, which is different to what we said we want to do from a target perspective. We want it to be on a Guidewire cloud managed service. And but back then we knew the importance of APIs. So we really started our API journey back then. We started tiny. We only started with 4 different APIs. And there's roughly around 60 interfaces that hook the whole thing together. And back in 2020, that's when we start up and running and start selling policies to workers' insurance policies to all the customers. The employers can buy insurance policy online from us. And then fast forward another 9 months. In 2018, that's when we have our first market commitment to say we're going to have to roll out our claim service model. And that was really challenging for our technology team because it's only 9 months after we roll out our policy platform to actually try to deliver a new claim service model to the market. And the technology knew back then was just impossible because we just didn't have the time to actually build our new claim platform in that amount of time. So the technology team has to pivot and we knew there's a platform out there in one of our partners, one of the legacy platform that can actually handle claims, but that's really not our target state. So quickly we had to brainstorm and look at what are the different ways that allow us to actually achieve the business goal, but at the same time we don't want to, I guess, have a lot of regrettable spends. We also want the faster time to market. Again, that's where MuleSoft comes in. We kind of double down our integration or API first strategy and the philosophy behind, we want to hide the underlying technology complexity behind a set of APIs and kind of enable the business capability, but not having worried too much around, what was the actual platform that sits behind it. We then build out all this, surround the kind of the legacy core claim platform from one of our partners and surround that with a whole bunch of APIs and hook up to our rest of the, I guess, the applications or technology service that we consume and to roll out the new claim service model in 6 months. And again, that kind of show us, another double down our strategy around using APIs and making sure we can deliver to what the business want. and really minimize whatever rework that we knew we have to do later when we actually brought in the new cloud platform. And in another 12 months time, that's when the actual new core platform that got put in place. So you'll notice that right at the middle, we now actually have the Guidewire Claim Center in there that's managed by Guidewire. 12 months later, we unplug the legacy core claim platform and put a new one in. And again, not a lot of organizations can actually go through that journey in less than 12 months. I believe it is our overall strategy around API first that allow us to, minimize the impact to our end customers, and allow us to kind of switch the core with not a lot of, with the ease that's there. And then during that time, we also look at, bringing other new capabilities in there. So we put in a new front end, which is using our target platform, which is Sitecore. We put that new portal in. We brought in our target enterprise data warehouse. And during that period, we also adding another roughly 130 plus interfaces to kind of enhance our claim, APIs that we put in place previously 12 months ago. And when this went live earlier this year in January 2019, in about the first 2 weeks, we had more than 10,000 claims that's been put through this entire network of technology services. And we have more than 800 claim staff actually using the platform that's servicing our customers. And you thought that's it, but that's not it. We still keep going. So just about a month ago, as I mentioned, Salesforce Portal was not really our targeted platform. We then came in and do another complete change, or we call it facelift for our policy portal. We migrate that to our target kind of Sitecore customer portal platform. And we did a lot of enhancements on the capabilities on that. And that's all done with very minimum work in our core business process API layer. We did a lot of new work in the experience layer to enable this new portal, but we really didn't touch on the things that will impact our core platforms. So that was the first real, tangible things that we know we can do, post our claim core platform migration. The second part that we thought we can do, which is, we have our Guidewire policy centers still hosting icare. That's the second part of things that we want to do to be able to complete our journey around, consuming a Guidewire managed service in Guidewire Cloud. So we are going through that process of that migration now. Again, that we know, with our API strategy, we know we can do that without impacting our customers. Hopefully it's completely invisible to them when we go through that journey. And really beyond that, this is really just done for workers' insurance. As you remember, we have another 3 or 4 different insurance schemes that icare operates. So the overall target is really to put everything onto this platform. And because the way that we construct it, we know we're going to get a lot of reuse out of our core business API, or what in icare we call our domain API layer. So that's kind of our journey so far today, right? So looking back as a technologist, over that lifespan, you kind of go, sometimes you look back, you kind of go, there's some technology decisions you thought, if I do it again, I might do something different. But I'm really happy to say picking MuleSoft Cloud Hub was really the right decision. Looking back from 3 years, I'm really glad that we doubled down on our API first strategy. I'm really glad that we picked the MuleSoft platform. Really for 2 key parts. Obviously, with the API first strategy, that allows us to plug and unplug a lot of technology services in with minimum regrettable spend, with minimum impact to our customers. But the second part was picking Cloud Hub was, I look back, I couldn't imagine what it's going to be like if we actually pick a traditional ESB platform. how that's going to fit into our cloud-first strategy of consuming services. I think we just won't be able to achieve what we want to achieve without using within Microsoft Cloud Hub. And I think looking back, we can really say, yes, that is the right integration platform for us to complement our API strategy. So I talked a lot about around what went right for us. I guess there's some key learnings I also want to, I guess, talk to you about. It's not without difficulties to go through this journey, and we learned a lot during those 3 years. The first thing to obviously with the API first strategy, you really want to design for agility for people to change and plugging new services as you like. For us, it's not really about building a lot of microservices. It's really making sure we have the right granularity in our design of our API layer to allow the agility of the business. So from icare's perspective, we cannot start with our enterprise data model, which nicely describe what are the key capabilities that business is looking after. We have policy, we have the concept of policies, claims, customers. We have treatment and care and partners. That's the core key concept within icare. And then beyond that, we also kind of say we want to allow our different insurance scheme to be able to innovate and change. And I guess sometimes if they want to plug the service that they want. So we went down another layer in terms of API module. We also segregated into based on different insurance schemes. So from our granularity, from our microservices granularity perspective, we kind of have two layers. One is really at the high level that talks about different domains, and then the next layer is really looking at the different insurance schemes that meets the business requirements. The second part is around flexibility. Now, it's all good and well-intentioned to put an integration layer in between, but if we haven't got the right kind of architecture within that, you're still tight coupling the two different components together. So, from icare's perspective, we kind of adopt the concept very similar to Microsoft's concept around the experience API, process API, and system API. In icare, we kind of call them domain API, which represent our key business capabilities. And then we kind of have two different adapters on two sides, hooking up to two different systems, system A, system B. And that allows us to plug and play different systems without impacting what the core, what the business wants to achieve, which is really represented by the domain APIs. The third thing is around resiliency. So a lot of the cloud platform obviously provide that scalability to scale up to based on the demand. Cloud Hub does have that as well, but it's not yet at the place where you can actually do this automatically on demand. So you have to put in a lot of monitoring to make sure, and also we did a lot of performance testing upfront to make sure we have the right capacity building, and we obviously constantly monitor that to make sure we can respond to customer demands when that happens. So that's another area that you really want to kind of have that in mind and watch out for first. And the last piece is around the ability to actually operate the whole platform when you have this kind of consuming technology services, microservices concept. As your whole architecture is being made out of multiple technologies and multiple microservices, it becomes a little bit hard to actually track the transaction end-to-end across the different areas. So from an overall design perspective, we really need to build traceability in, so we can actually, when a customer performs a transaction, we can actually trace that transaction throughout the entire network of technology services and the different integration points. So we know when it got stuck, when something went wrong, we know exactly what went wrong where. So this really needs to be thought through upfront to avoid a lot of pain, trying to engineer that back into the overall landscape. Afterwards, it's not as easy as doing it upfront. So that's really the 4 key areas I want to share with you that we learned throughout the course of the 3 years. And lastly, I just want to leave you with a little quote that my favorite quote, I guess, more recently, I found a movie. We are the avengers, not the preventers. Our technologies, we strive to kind of have foresight and help plan for what's coming. So hopefully with this talk, I'll be able to share some of the insights that the journey that we went through and make sure that, you don't repeat some of our pitfalls and gain some insight around planning your API works for the future. And that's it. Thank you. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Ed. That's awesome to hear the icare story. It's been a long journey, which we've been along with you, and it's great to see the results. Just a couple of questions from me. You made reference twice to plug-in and unplug-in aspects of what you call the application network. How do you feel that the API-led connectivity approach enables you to do effectively that legacy modernization in flight?
So I think the key is really have a well-defined business capabilities as your API layer. So and hiding the technology complexity behind that. So because when we have a clear understanding around protocols from a policy and claim perspective, what's required to actually complete that specific transaction, whether or not hiding behind the API, which systems actually performing that specific function. To some extent, we can hide that complexity from the overall landscape, and that allows us to kind of move different technologies in and out of our landscape relatively easily. Like let's say, obviously, plugging a core insurance platform is never easy. I made it sound easy, but it's really not. It can be a lot more painful if you haven't done this properly.
Thank you for your time today, Ed, and hopefully that's given some people some insight into their journeys. Thank you.
Thanks. Grateful to
Excellent, Ed. And another one, how did icare resource for this program of work?
So for icare, we have a lot of partners helping us build the overall platform. Specifically for the integration piece, we have Deloitte being our main partners. They help us kind of went through the entire journey with us from a strategy perspective, also from an implementation perspective. So yeah, so they've been doing a pretty good job with us.
Awesome. And what's next for icare with this program?
So as I mentioned, kind of towards the end, there's still a lot more that we have to do. If we look at our overall landscape, we pretty much really just done a couple of the service lines within icare. Overall icare, we also have that disease care, we have lifetime care. There's a few other schemes that we want to go through and put on the platform. So as part of that, MuleSoft will obviously be involved. We will probably be building additionally another few different APIs to cater for those specific business needs. That's really where we are going next.
So just turning to the Q&A that people have been posting. One here, did you use any of the Salesforce out-of-the-box connectors to integrate through to Sitecore or any other third-party apps, or was it all go via MuleSoft? So
I think the way we kind of take what we do there is largely based on, is this going to be reusable? That's really the fundamental decision points. Specifically answering your question for Sitecore and a few other apps. In most of the area, we sort of see a lot of reuse in some of the APIs. The majority of them are actually going through MuleSoft. There are maybe a couple exceptions where we kind of go, that's a very unique use cases, and they are out-of-the-box adaptive available, therefore we just use those.
Yeah. And that drives into your reuse KPIs, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Just another question. What was your approach in developing and maintaining the enterprise data model?
Cool. So the ownership of the enterprise data model actually doesn't sit with the integration practice. We have a separate data governance forum that manage all the key main, data, specific data components, and then we have kind of what we call custodians for specific data sets. And then underneath that, we have a lot of kind of data catalog or glossaries that gives us what different, specific term, what it means. And that's really a key input into how we're defining APIs, because we will pick common terms from the data glossary and kind of go, that's what it means within the APIs, and this is how we implement that to make it a lot more human readable. People understand what we mean by that.
Sure. And just if anyone else has any questions, please post them on the Q&A chat channel. Another one here. When designing for operations, how have you managed the login and monitoring of this? Is it with native Mule or third-party tools?
So it's kind of a little bit of a journey for us. So when we first started, we used the MuleSoft native tools to log it. But then kind of we soon realized with our kind of application network, we really want to centralize the logs. So specifically, we then pick a centralized logging tool to help us do that, and we use Splunk for that. And to monitor that, obviously, there's a variety of kind of monitoring tools out there. We have a couple. We have kind of Nagios being more infrastructure monitoring, but on the API or on the end user level, we have Dynatrace that monitors.
Also, another question they're coming through now. Is there a reason why your Cloud Hub is not expanding on demand and it's set?
So we haven't really built that capability into kind of the auto scaling capability. I know you definitely have the ability to do that down the track. Just something we haven't really looked at and investing.
And again, I guess this is just digging into the application network vision. Do you use MuleSoft to integrate with all core systems and also your data warehouse?
So again, depends on use cases. For a lot of the use cases where it's synchronizing or performing transaction, more real-time transaction, that's really a key MuleSoft function. We do have a different tool. Essentially when we do bulk kind of data movement, we have file transfer tools. For data warehouse, we have ETL tools for that. But I guess more and more it really depends. We don't say you have to use an ETL, traditional ETL tool to integrate between core systems and data warehouse. There are other, if we want more real-time information, we may go down the MuleSoft route as well.
Sure. This is a good question. So obviously you mentioned Deloitte were there on the journey with building this. Maybe the question is how many MuleSoft developers, but at the peak, how many developers were actually helping you build now?
At the peak, I think we have roughly a team of 40 developers. I guess maybe I should qualify. It's not just developers. Various different people play a different role in the entire API lifecycle. We have architects, we have designers, we have kind of specific analysts that help us designing APIs. So overall, we have a team roughly around 40, but they all play a slightly different role in that lifecycle.
And that was the Deloitte team you had?
Yeah, that's a Deloitte team we had.
Awesome. Okay, we're getting towards the end of the list now. How did you find the productivity of the MuleSoft platform compared to your existing experience with middleware?
Oh, that's a massive difference. I don't know whether you guys read the case study, but it kind of talked about the amount of efficiencies or comparing to traditional middleware. We will probably get a 30 to 40%, I guess, productivity out of using MuleSoft, which kind of reflect, when you look at that case, I talked about how much cheaper it is to build an API. That was really the stat. Yeah.
Awesome. And do you use MuleSoft API Manager in your monitoring solution?
So we haven't done that. API Manager is kind of built into our kind of old dev cycles. We haven't specifically used that for functional monitoring.
And the next question, does Okta handle both authentication and authorization functions? How are you actually doing that authorization of APIs?
Okay, that's a tricky one. On the API, obviously there's various different ways you can authenticate and authorize the APIs. We use something called the JWT token to do that. So Okta do provide the token for us for MuleSoft to authenticate against. But like I said, there are some internal APIs that use other methods like GeoSSL, mutual authentication, that sort of thing. So it's different. Depends on the use case around how the two end systems are talking.
Understood. Okay, well, thanks, Ed. That seems to be the end of the questions today. Thanks for your time, and I'm sure a few people will be reaching out. Thanks.
Yeah, great. Great for having me.